Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Akhandamandalakaram Yapsham Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmatacharya Padyantam De Guru Paramparam. So we were at verse number 74, and Priyaji, you can go through the YouTube channel and you can catch up. This is not a very difficult text, but see, it is the essence of Advaita. See, very beautifully, Swami Sarvapriyananda from the Ramakrishna Mission, he says, once you have attained it, you cannot lose it. Now, there are other paths, right? The path of yoga, Patanjali Yoga, which includes all the kriyas, which are types of kriyas that are there. All the kriyas, they require a huge amount of diligent practice. And slight inconsistency in that means you drop. Whereas here, you cannot drop. See, if you have been burnt once, you know that experience. You cannot unlearn that experience. I was in a corporate training scenario, and when I was learning to be a trainer, and one of the mentors who were teaching a class, he would say, come into the classroom and say, unlearn whatever you have learned. And I had a question. I raised my hand and I said, please tell me how. Not possible. I cannot unlearn. I can I can have newer, fresher experiences, but I cannot unlearn an experience, right? So unlearning, and therefore in Advaita what happens, because the nature of this is itself knowledge. Taittiriya Upanishad says Satyam Jnanam Anantam, right? Brahmanandavalli third verse very clearly says Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Satyam Brahma, Jnanam Brahma, Anantam Brahma. Now that Satyam Jnanam Anantam, the nature of this itself is of knowledge. See, Shvetaketu came back from, this is from the Chandogya Upanishad. So Shvetaketu came back from the school. And when he came back from school, he was puffed up. You know what happens now, right? When the guy gets into a convention from an Ivy League college and all the hats are thrown and everybody is now waiting and taking photographs, right? So Raghuji is from one of the Ivy League colleges of India. IIM, he's IITN. So when you come back from such a college, you are young, and what happens? You get puffed up. So Shvetaketu also has come back from one of the greatest munis of that area and of that regime of that period, and he is completely puffed up. And he says, well, what will my father know? He knows nothing. Old man, old school. So father looks at him and realizes that this guy has got all puffed up and he's got all proud. So I think it is important that I bring him down a few notches. Let us deflate him. And also at the same time, give him the essential knowledge that he is supposed to get. He said, what all did you learn in school? So he says, biology, physiology, physics, mathematics, right? Chemistry, philosophy, logic. I learned a lot of things. Achha, very good. Have you learned that by knowing which you can know everything? Now Shvetaketu says, what is this knowledge? If I learn biology, I can understand about living beings. If I learn chemistry, I can learn about elements. If I learn physics, I can learn about motion, gravity, and so on and so forth. If I learn mathematics, I can understand numbers. If I learn philosophy, I can understand how things are structured. What is this thing by which I will know everything? Shankaracharya in his Bhashya says, Vetaketu is now very afraid to answer, because if he says no, if he says yes, his father will question him. And if he says no, his father will send him back to school. So, being afraid of going back to school, he very tentatively says, no, I don't know this knowledge. And then Vetaketu's father, over a period of 27 times, tells him, you are that. Tattvamasi. Knowing that by which I know everything means by knowing clay, I know all the pots. By knowing iron, I know everything that has been made of iron. Does this mean that I know the details of everything? No, not possible. Right? I know iron. Will I know the details of this carving on this design on this spoon? No, not possible. But I ignore that because that is only an appearance, because actually that is made of iron. And that is more important for me. Not the appearance of those designs and the shape and the form that that particular iron has taken. Now, if I use that as a basic premise, then by knowing that, right, the tat, by knowing the tat, I will have known everything that is to be known about everything, because everything in itself is tat. Everything is made of tat only. Everything is made of that self. And that self is me. That knowledge is called direct knowledge. Aparokshanubhuti. Direct experience. Now, direct experience, we have talked about this. I'm just trying to bring you up to speed also, and it's a sort of revision for all of us, is that the word experience itself, Shankaracharya himself writes in his own text as a preface, he says that the title of the book itself is wrong, because the word experience by definition means there is an experience, there is an experiencer, and then there is an act of experiencing. Now, bhojanam, bhojyam, bhokta, I have myself said in my Nirvana Shatakam. How can I now suddenly say experience? But with the limitation of language, I have to put this particular aspect. One question that arises is, so if I become enlightened, will I actually know the details of everything? Now, there is a lot of debate about this. There's a lot of debate, philosophical actual debate, not just argument for argument's sake. Now, strangely, for example, let us take these beautiful, wonderful examples. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa studied up to class 3, or what is technically now called class 3, because he studied till the age of 9, in a village school where they taught the basics of writing and numbers. And in the numbers also, he would not do division and he would not do subtraction. See, from childhood itself, he was in yoga. So he has said that I could do addition, I could not do division and subtraction, because he's come for creating yoga. So the physical act of subtracting, he could not tie a knot, even from the childhood. He could open any knot. Give him the most complex knot, he would open it. Right? These were indications that were there. People obviously did not catch on. So anyway, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa could expound the greatest truths of the Vedanta directly without quoting any scripture, because it was a living experience for him. Sri Ramana Maharshi later on studied all the texts. But if you look at his works, such as Upadesha Saram, 40 verses on reality, it says, I mean, obviously, I have not read the original Tamil, but if you read these, you realize the depths, the heights, I don't know what you want to call it, of actual experience that they had. Now, Raman Maharshi came from Tiruchuri, which was right in the heart of Tamil Nadu. But his creative ability, because of the fact that you have established yourself in self, and all those coverings become very transparent, he could pick up languages like that. It was not that he was very linguistic. So he said he studied Malayalam, and he realized that it is a combination of Granthi and Tamil. And in 7 days, he mastered the script of Malayalam. And then he started composing in Malayalam. He never studied Sanskrit. He composed in Sanskrit. For learning Sanskrit, he would have to ask Kavyakanta Ganapati Muni, one of his disciples. Kavyakanta would explain, oh, this is this particular meter, this is this particular chanda. And the next 3 days later, Ramana Maharshi would be explaining to him how that meter is to be constructed. Now, there are examples here, right? But I will give you equally number of examples where you will find that this person understands and realizes that reality, but has no understanding or does not want to understand that individual detail of that particular fund that is in front of him. The Nama Rupa is irrelevant for such a person. So the question that arises is it actually possible for an enlightened being, or is it possible for anything to be aware of all the details of this cosmos? What is your view?
My view is that should the person desire that information, it will become accessible to him. Often, the relevance of that detail is not relevant. So they're not interested. That doesn't mean they are not able to, if they should they so desire.
Okay. My view of this particular question is, there is only one being that has access to this automatically, and that is Ishvara. Ishvara, so now you look at it, again go back to the wave, ocean and water, right? If something happens in the Pacific Ocean, will the Bay of Bengal get affected? Yes. Will the Bay of Bengal know that something happened over there? Yes. So does the Bay of Bengal know where the blue whale is swimming? Yes. Does the wave in Bay of Bengal know anything of this? No. Right? Does the wave understand that the wave form is going to vanish within a few moments and I will merge into that which is called water? Yes. That is my analogy. So therefore, for me, this whole conceptually, it actually proves to me, and there are actually, I'll get to that at some point of time, there are 24 different proofs given by Bhaskaracharya for the existence of Ishvara from an Advaitic viewpoint. Purely from an Advaitic viewpoint, 24 different arguments. None of them are brilliant. Don't worry about that. None of them are brilliant, but they are all very logical. All of them are very logical. That Ishvara exists, but Ishvara also is a name and form. Name and form. It is only when the name and form is attached to Brahman that there is attribute, and when there is attribute, there is glory, there is so on and so forth. In Aparokshanubhuti, we find nothing of that sort. In the Bhagavad Gita, we find the glories, right? We are doing chapter 10 right now. Chapter 10, the whole name of the chapter is glories. Vibhuti Yoga. Glories of the Lord. Glory, where does this glory come from? Glory comes from Maya. Oh, so then there are two? No. Maya. So there is a beautiful explanation here. I've forgotten the name of the work. So he calls it the adjectival attribution. Adjectival attribution. If I say orange flower, does this mean there are two? One orange and one flower? No, right? Orange is an attribute to the flower. The flower exists. It may be orange, sometimes it may be red. If the light is different, it may appear black also. But the flower will exist. Correct? This whole aspect of adjectival attribution is the play of Maya. So, since Durga Puja is around the corner, and my mind has already shifted over there. So then what happens is, around this period in Bengal, she is treated as the daughter of the house. So Himavan has a house in Bengal. His wife, Mena, she's from the plains. She went and married him. And they had this beautiful daughter who went and married Shiva. Now, during the Pitru Paksha, there are songs which are sung, which are called Agomuni. Agaman, meaning coming. The songs of coming of the Devi. Beautiful songs, amazing lyrics and all. So, in one of them, the song basically is sung by Mena, and she tells Bhagawan, it is time. What are you loitering around here? Go, fetch our daughter. So Himavan goes and he fetches the daughter. And she sees this daughter and is awestruck. And she says, who is this you have brought? This is a person, I sent my daughter 2 hands, young baby. And now you have brought somebody with 10 hands riding on a lion. Brahma and Vishnu are standing at her gate as doorkeepers. And that weed-smoking beggar who she married, he has become the ruler of this universe by calling himself Chetana, by calling himself consciousness. It is all because of her. Shiva by himself is Shiva. Full stop. Nothing else will describe him. Nothing else can describe him. So, it is only when that Shiva and Shakti play happens that we see this universe. And then we get trapped in it, and we get trapped in what is called our body. And our body consciousness is the most difficult consciousness to get rid of. It is the most easy consciousness to understand that I am not the body. Understanding is not removal of that consciousness. Logically, very simple to understand. Today morning when you woke up, you lost a few hairs, you put on a few kilos, you lost a few kilos, you shaved off your cheeks, you lost a few more follicles of hair, you changed. Logically, within a few seconds, anybody, smallest child can understand, I am not the body, I cannot be the body. But doing vichara on the fact that I am not the body and ultimately making it a thought which becomes me, my experience that I am not the body, is a very difficult thing to happen. Hence, from verse 74 onwards, right up to verse number 86, in Aparokshanubhuti, Acharya uses one refrain, let me call it, refrain. Refrain is, Tadvat Atmani Dehatvam Pashyat Tagyana Yogataha. Continuously he says this, right? For 12 verses, 11 verses, he keeps saying this. Tadvat Atmani Dehatvam. Tadvat. So also. Atmani, in the self. Dehatvam, the idea of body. Dehatvam, right? Idea of this is the body, I am the body. Pashyati, sees. Ajnana Yogataha. Being joined with your Ajnana. Having taken Ajnana as the basis of your existence, you are saying, I am the body. Now from here, from verse 75 to verse number 86, he uses this continuously and keeps giving us example after example after example. And all of the examples are actually examples for us to do manan, for us to do vichara. So in the first example, he basically says, Yatha vriksha paryaso jalad bhavati kasyachit. So what you see when you see a reflection in a lake, what do you see? You see the trees, but they are inverted, right? Natural inversion that we see, which is called reversion, right? So that the image reversion that happens. So you see the tree, but the roots will be on the top and the branches will be at the bottom. Correct? Similarly, you will see a mirage, right? You will see the mirage. What do you see? There is no reality. Now, in each of these examples, there are different types of illusion that we have to understand. They are not all the same illusion. And all of us are not suffering from the same illusion of this is my body. So he gives different types of illusions. Now, in this case, the reflection is actually there, but it is not there. Do you understand that? The reflection is there, but it is also not there. Because it is a dependent variable, dependent upon what is being reflected. Now, that the moment that we understand that this is only a reflection of that which is existing outside, the pure existence. So he uses the example of a reflection. Yatha vriksha viparyaso jalad bhavati kasyachet. Then in the next shloka, he says, Potena gacchata pumsaha sarva bhativa chanchalam bhativa. Bhativa, I am aware of. Pota word, pota means it's literally translates into boat, but a specific type of boat. You know, the boat that just floats on the water, right? Like a raft, where no action is done, and you sit on that water, and the water is also flowing very gently. You cannot use a raft in if you use a raft in Zanskar, then what happened to Priya will happen to all of us, right? You overturn and then you float along in the water with your life jacket, right? So, Raghuji, whenever you next meet Priya, you must ask her about her wonderful experience of floating in a mountain river for almost 15-20 kilometers, I think. So, the
whitewater rafting, is it?
Yeah, so he went for whitewater rafting and then the raft overturned. So, but anyway, typically a raft is used in a gently flowing river or a gently flowing stream. Now you sit in the raft, you are not doing anything. The raft is moving, right? But you don't feel the movement because the water is flowing gently. You are not doing any action also. So what is happening? Everything else is moving. Everything else is moving, right? Now, this may not be an example that we can relate to very easily, because most of us may not have traveled on such a raft, but we have all traveled by train. What moves? The surroundings move. You are sitting still. So same thing here, he's saying that this illusion of movement across in this entire world, nothing is actually moving. Nothing is moving. If I tell Raghuji, are you in Pune or are you back in Abu Dhabi?
Back in Abu Dhabi.
Okay. So now if I tell him I'm going to take you to Abu Dhabi, he will say, what do you mean by take me to Abu Dhabi? I'm already there. Right? If I tell you, Priya, that I'm going to take you to Powai, you will say, I'm already there. You're mad. Now, if I tell you that I'm going to give you freedom, you should say the same thing then. You should say, you're mad. I'm already free. But we are not. We are in that illusion that everything is moving. And I am also moving. So that is a second type of illusion that he talks about, right? In verse number 76. Then he says, Pitatvam hi yatha shubhre doshad bhavati kasyachit. Pitatvam, right? High level of jaundice, 20, bilirubin count gone to 20. Body has turned yellow, eyes have turned yellow. For that matter, even the sclera, because of the yellowness, has started causing you to see things as yellow. Titatvam, high degree of jaundice. Now, what is he talking about? He's saying your perception of reality is your reality. We are not doubting the fact that he is seeing yellow. But the reality is that it is white. Correct? What is interesting is here that he knows that there is white, but he does not recognize the white as white. He recognizes it as yellow only. He knows that there is white. Otherwise, he will say that, see, if a person is born color inverted and sees red as green, green as red, he has no experience of green or red. He sees it inverted. Here, he has that experience. He already has that experience of bliss. All of us have. All of us have. That bliss that comes from that first piece of chocolate, the bliss that comes from that first rasgulla, that bliss came because of the reflected ananda from what you are, not from the rasgulla, not from your mind, not from your intellect. Your mind reflected that bliss and therefore told you, what a beautiful rasgulla. So here he uses a different argument here. Pitatvam hi yatha shubhre doshad bhavati kasyachet. All times he's keeping on giving the same refrain. Tadvat atmani dehatvam pashyat tajnana yogataha. Next he says, Chakshurbhyam brahmashilabhyam sarva bhati brahmatmakam. If you are defective, if your eyes are defective, you will see defects everywhere. What does this mean? If you are seeing limitation, it is the problem that you have caused for yourself. If you are seeing sorrow, it is a problem that you have caused for yourself. The karma theory is completely embedded into this particular verse. I like this set of verses because each one of them is such a beautiful area for doing a manan on what types of illusions I am suffering from and therefore making my life miserable. Here he says that it is the... So what does he mean by defect in the eyes? For example, you press this, right? You press on the top of the eyeball. Immediately, the two eyeballs get disconnected at the optic nerve. There are two different images will come and therefore you are seeing two. Now, is there actually two? No. Only there is one. When you remove the defect, again the one becomes one. So my defect, the limitation that I suffer from, the sorrow that I am suffering from, what happened is when Gurudev was very much there at that point of time, but I had this huge keeping on going off into solitude, running away into the Himalayas sort of thing that I used to keep doing. So I was on one of my such sojourns. I was up in halfway to Badrinath, and I used to walk mainly. Walk, jump onto some vehicle that is passing by or whatever. So I was walking and I took refuge in a particular cave. And there was a Mahatma living in that cave. So generally conversation, I told him that I'm very troubled, I'm very upset about various things. So he very smilingly put his hand on my head and he said, "Beta, तुम्हें दुख का अनुभव हो रहा है, तुम दुखी नहीं हो." So, and then he said, "जाओ बैठो कोने में बैठो और उसका मनन करो." So I did manan. I did meditation on this particular thing of Shakshitvam, of my sorrows and my troubles. 2.5 days later, I got up. I told him that, Maharaj, अभी मुझे बहुत शांति का अनुभव हो रहा है. So he said, तुम्हें शांति का अनुभव हो रहा है, तुम शांत नहीं हो. Neither Shanti nor dukkha. They are not you. Such a beautiful learning, right? It is easy when it is the sad things happen and you say, oh, then, the Markata Vairagya, the Smashana Vairagya, all of these Vairagyas will come. This too shall pass. When your child has come first in school, do you also then say, oh, this too shall pass, next time he will fail? You say that? Correct? Right? So we are always looking for the pleasant things, and there we are not saying that, okay, let us let us also say this too shall pass. And which is the beautiful learning that he gave me over there. So then he says here in this, and that is why I said this is the karma theory here completely, right? Then he says in verse number 79, alatam brahmanenaiva vartulam bhati suryavat, right? So here he says alatam. Alatam means a stick which has been lit by fire with fire. Now we do that in Diwali, na? We take that sparkler and then we used to go round. And when you are away from it, what do you see? You see a circle. Is there actually a circle? There is no circle over there. The circle got created by your mind. Correct? Circle got created by your mind. Vartulam, circle. Right? So there is a firebrand and it is being swung around and round very fast. So it appears to be like the sun, round like the sun. What is the learning here? What is the illusion here? Whatever we are seeing, whatever we are absorbing, it is coming to us from our mind. It is our jnanendriya and our karma indriya which are playing the games of perception, absorption, etc., etc. And those may not be true. These may not be true. So what you are perceiving is not necessarily the truth. And your perception is all created by your mind. Then he goes on to say, Mahatve sarva vastunam anutvam yati durataha. Again, beautiful example. Huge thing. Such as Mount Shivling. Right? Now, when you see it from near Bhujbasa, what does it appear? Oh, this much. So, it is because we are so far away, because of all the coverings of ignorance that we have, we are so far away from the reality that we are not able to perceive the greatness of it. And therefore, we are stuck because of the fact that we are stuck in the body. Again and again, he says, because of your ajnanam, you are stuck in your body. So, again, another beautiful example. Mahatve sarva vastunam anutvam yati durata. Because it is far, you see it as small. Then again, he says, sukshmatve vasarva vastunam sthulatvam chopanetrataha. Right? He says that when the reverse is also true. Some things which are actually very small, very insignificant, we enlarge them through our mind. And because we enlarge them through our mind, we get enthralled by that, and we are trapped in that. So there is this beautiful story about perceptions, right? So this, I'm sure you've heard some variation of this, but anyway. So this girl, she's in college, she's in a hostel, and she writes to her parents. Sorry for not writing for such a long time, but my fracture is healing very well. Now already the parents are wondering, fracture. See, when the fire took place in my room, fire took place in my room, I had to jump off from the first floor and I landed and I broke my skull. Don't worry, it is healing very well. Nothing has gone wrong. I'm perfectly all right. No concussion and anything happened. It is healing perfectly well. However, I do not have any possessions right now because all my clothes and everything got destroyed. So one of the boys who tried to help me is son of a cobbler. And now I am living with him in his one-room apartment. So, but he's a very nice boy. I'm sure you will like him. And when my child is born in another 4 months, I'm sure you will give him or her, the child, as much love and affection as you have given me. Now, by this time, the parents have already gone, all their hair is standing erect, right? So, but we want to come and meet you. However, we are not ready to meet you right now because he's suffering from AIDS. And we are waiting to see if the child is also suffering from AIDS or not. Now, by now, the parents have decided to take a flight to wherever this child is and bring her back and whatever, right? And then the page turns and this is all whatever I said was untrue. I hope you understand that this could be a possibility. The reality is that I don't have a fracture. I am not living with anybody. I am not pregnant. It is only that I have failed on all my papers. Now what happened? The failure has become so small, no? But just imagine if the perspective was not given and the child calls up and says, Papa failed. Oh, mathematics failed, physics failed, chemistry failed, biology failed, languages failed. Come home, I will give you left, right. Right? Like Russell Peters says, right? Somebody gonna get hurt. So somebody gonna get hurt is what's going to happen. But now what happened? Now we enlarge or reduce things in our own mind. The act of failure was so minuscule, and this girl, by beautifully putting all of this together, changed the perspective. So here Acharya says, that which is so small, we use a magnifying lens and we expand it. Where is the magnifying lens? In our brain. So we take I'm sure you as a doctor, you would have seen people who come with either imaginary diseases or mild diseases which they have blown up into out of proportion. Is it that they have blown it out? No, they're actually suffering. They are actually suffering. You know that it is a small thing. But they have blown it up because of their mind. That is what this particular verse is talking about. Then he says, Kacha bhumo jalatvam va jalabhumo hi kachata. Kacha bhumo means sheet of glass. So a sheet of glass may appear as a water, or water may appear as sheet of glass. Right? What does this mean? We again have mistaken identities. So you sit down for deep meditation, doing japa, and you forget your body for a minute. And then you get involved with the mind. Or you forget the mind for a minute and you get involved with the body. This happens to us when we are trekking, isn't it? Your mind shuts off, your body is working. This interplay of body-mind is what is indicated over here in terms of saying you will keep shifting between them. You are neither. You are neither. The next one tells us to do a lot of investigation. Yadagno manitvam hi manova vanhita puman. So just as a person will mistake a jewel for fire or a fire for jewel, right? I mean, in the distance, there is a small fire that is burning and you have no perspective of distance. You will see that and you might feel, oh, there is something shining over there. You don't recognize it. What is the indication here? The indication is while you do have probabilities of mistaken identities and mistakes on this, the answer is to go near and investigate. Inquiry. Vichara. Vichara alone will be able to tell us. So when you go to the fire and you try and pick it up or you go near it, you will realize, oh no, it is fire. Or you go to the jewel, you know it is not fire. You have to go near it. You have to investigate. You have to do vichara. That is verse number 83. Then in 84, he says, Abreshu satsu dhavatsu somo dhavati bhati vai. Again, beautiful. This is a particular imagery that has been used by poet Kalidas in, I think, at least 4 or 5 of his works. Right? I remember reading about it in Kumara Sambhavam. It is there in Meghadutam. The imagery is that in the sky, there are clouds which are moving. And it appears as if they are carrying the moon. Right? Such a beautiful image. It appears as if they are carrying the moon. So, do you remember this movie called Sound of Music? There is a beautiful song there. I mean, the famous song obviously is Do Re Mi and all that, but my favorite song is My Favorite Things. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, right? When the dog and the bee stings. There's a beautiful line there. When the wild geese that fly with the wings on their, with the moon on their wings, right? Wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. The moon is not on their wings. Look at that image. Kalidas is using the same image. And he's saying, what you are seeing as moving is the surface. The moon is not moving. You, the self, are not moving. You are eternally present in every bit of this entire universe with the same degree of consciousness. The consciousness that is there in the tip of your toe is the same consciousness that exists on your forehead also. And the same way it exists in every other being. And it is the same. It is undivided, undifferentiated consciousness. Then, so that's in 84. Then he says, Yathaiva dig paryaso mohad bhavati kasyachit. Have you played Blind Man's Buff? Blind Man's Buff, right? You tie the person's eyes. Then what do? You take that person and make him go round, and then leave him. And then we all would spread out and then either make noises and that person would try and catch. Now this person who has, his eyes are closed, he has no sense of direction. He doesn't know which is north, which is south, which is east, which is west. Similarly, most of us don't know how and where to go. That is what the Acharya is saying. Acharya is saying that it is not only a problem of the fact that you are identifying with the body, but even if you don't want to identify, you don't know where to go. You don't know how to come out of it. So what is the answer? The answer is very simple. The answer is scripture. The answer is the Upanishads. The answer is the Brahma Sutra. The answer is the Bhagavad Gita. But unfortunately, we can't study those texts directly because they may not be easy to accept or absorb. So you do Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, Aparokshanubhuti, Panchadashi, Panchikaran, all these Prakarna Granthas, you study them and then you are prepared and ready for going into studying the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutra and the Upanishads. In our classes, we have done exactly the reverse. We started with Brahma Sutra, then we went, then we did Bhagavad Gita, and also we have assumed that
I have started with Tattva Bodha.
Good. So that is actually
to
where we should
download
start.
Tattva Bodha Bhagavad Gita. I downloaded Tattva Bodha and I got stuck to Tattva Bodha. I have not moved beyond the first page.
Okay. So basically, that's the best place to start. Tattva Bodha is actually the originally first book that we typically. Atma Bodha is a book of definitions. So Atma Bodha first, normally, it's a book of definitions because then you are using technical terms, using the word Atman, using the word whatever, all these the technical terms. So they understand the technical terms, gives you the definition of those terms, and then moves on from there. You go to Tattva Bodha. From there, you do Panchikaran. Then you do Aparokshanubhuti. Then you do Panchadashi. Then only you go to Bhagavad Gita. That is the sequence. Right? So again, Yathaiva dig paryaso mohad bhavati kasyachit. And then in 86, he says, Yatha shashi jale bhati chanchalatvena kasyachit. Again, he uses the metaphor of disturbance, the metaphor of movement. So when you see the reflection of the moon in the water, then the reflection is always shaking. It is always, all the time, it is shaking. To me, on my manan, I think here is where also the principle of Ishvara is also touched upon. While Aparokshanubhuti actually does not talk about Ishvara at all, but I like to, because of my predilection with the way in which I was taught Advaita, is that Ishvara has a place in this entire journey. See, my mind will continue to exist even after I am enlightened. I will understand that I am not the mind, and I will understand that all things that happen in the mind are reflections of my Tat Chit Ananda. And I will know that. It will be my experience. Will that mean that the mind will stop will stop functioning? I will become mindless. I will go into coma. No, nothing of that sort will happen. Right? I will, as the Bhagavad Gita says, Ashna and Snava and so on and so forth, right? Swapan, Swashan, so on and so forth. I will continue to do all the Vyavaharika things that I am already doing. But if my mind can be stilled, then what will be reflected in that mind? The full moon in all its glory will be reflected, not fragmented. It will be reflected in glory. It will be reflected in completeness. So, if I can take my mind and still it beautifully, still it completely, then what is reflected? Ishvara is reflected. Right? Because Brahman cannot be reflected. Understand this. Brahman does not have an existence for it to be reflected. It is existence. It is a subject. It cannot be made into an object. It is the subject. But what can be reflected? Ishvara can be reflected. And therefore I can have Ishvaratva Bhava, right? Being proximal. We talk of that in terms of the moksha, the 4 types of moksha, the Vishishtadvaita mokshas. We talk of the Advaita, the Dvaita mokshas, Alokya, Samipya, Arupya, Arshti. I treat this as a very long-term marriage, right? So in the first stage of marriage, what happens? The girl is brought into the same house. Talokya. You live in the same house as the husband. Then you share the same room as the husband. You are proximal to the husband. Samipya. Then over a period of time, your behavior and his behavior seems to reflect each other very closely. The way you talk, the way he talks become very similar. That is called Sarupya. And then both of you share the responsibilities of the house so very intimately that outside people will be confused as to, for this, should I talk to the husband or should I talk to the wife? Now, I see that in my own house, right? I see Siddesh sometimes, having spoken to Savitri about something, goes and does something. Now, I have no knowledge of that. So when I talk to him and I tell him, he will tell me, but I told you. He said, no, you didn't tell me. Okay. I must have told mommy. In his mind, mommy and papa have become one. Why? Because we share the same powers, we share the same responsibilities. Sarshti. Then this is up to here is Dvaita. Then Vishishta Dvaita says there is one more level, Sayujya. Then I will merge into becoming one unit. I will become one unit. Advaita says, what is all this bunkam? You are already free. All these 5 stages, 5 steps, all that is useless. Right? Now, however, this actually for me is a process by which you move from Dvaita to Vishishta Dvaita to Advaita. It's not that you can jump into Advaita directly. In chapter 12, very clearly, Sri Krishna says that those who approach me with name and form find it easier. It is easier. Why? Because our inability to grasp something which has no name, no form, no attributes is very, very difficult, because we have name, form, attributes, and we can only relate to that. So therefore, I like this verse where in 86, Yatha shashi jale bhati chanchalatvena pashyachit. Then what happens? Tadvattatmani dehatvam pasyat jnana yogataha. Such, therefore, I see myself as the body. I see myself as the body. Then he changes direction from verse number 87, which we will study in our next session. Yes, please.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask about the since all three of us were at the camp. So, in the recent meditations I've been doing, in the vichara phase, I've started to look at, okay, the body is there, it is having experiences. I want to be purely the witness, try not to participate, but at the same time be aware of what is happening. Of course, when I get to that point, now every time my body goes into the shavasana, I'm now not uncomfortable anymore like I was at the camp. But body we go to shavasana, because I've never done shavasana sitting, and now I'm doing it sitting. It was a new experience. I didn't know how to handle that. Now I'm okay with it. I'm able to sit, and it's, in fact, I can now see myself sitting for very long time also. Sometimes I do that, and then when I break the meditation, I realize I've gone much more than I had originally planned. The thing I want to ask here is, now that I'm starting to do that, I'm doing the pure observation, just trying to be a witness alone. Where should I go next with this?
See, you must come to a stage where this being a witness is a permanent state of existence. Not only when you sit down in meditation. Now, how do you go there? How will we move to that particular stage? I'll take you there. I mean, I'll explain that in a way in which we can grasp it and we can move it. But right now, so the next step is I should be able to do my day-to-day living where I can see that I am talking to you. And you may be saying something which my mind is not accepting. My intellect is saying, oh, this is a false idea. And I can see that it is happening in my mind, it is happening in my intellect. I am only observing. Right now, just now. That can also happen. How do I go there? First, let us get to a point where, at least in our meditations, we are all the time, or the full 45 minutes or so that we do spend in our day doing this, we can be in that observer mode. Once that settles down, becomes me, at least then, your mind says, okay, chutti ka time aa gaya. Now you have to sit down and let me go on a holiday. I'm not going to work anymore. Body says, okay, now my knees are going to get a little bit of problem, but it's okay. I will tolerate that, because after that I feel good. When that starts happening and you have already established yourself in that, what Gurudev used to call the seat of meditation, then the seat of meditation transforms into life experience as meditation. Life itself becomes meditation. Meditation is not something that you do, it is something that you are. Let's close. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.